Hello, sorry I'm a little late on our recap for Tuesday, December 16th City Council meeting. It's relatively quick update. The initial stuff went as expected. Citizen input, there were 3 people who spoke. Steve Teets, who tends to speak pretty often, asked to the city council members who had actually read the flyer that he had given them with his bullet points and his reasons for being concerned around Cascadia. And he was informed by Mayor Hall that this is a time for community input, not a time for engagement from city council. Then a new face I haven't seen before, Antonio, he apparently works in community mental health, came in to speak about his concerns around homelessness. He also asked the city council who on council would be open to reconsidering the camping ban. Again, it was reiterated by Mayor Hall that this is a point for community input and not for further discussion or for council to respond. I do hope that Antonio will consider sending emails, as hopefully there will be engagement there. And then Jeremy Bland, who is a big proponent of Cascadia, spoke mostly directed at Councilmember Deboutez for bringing up the idea at the last council meeting around adding things to the special election ballot. It doesn't appear that they did that, as nothing ended up on the agenda, and it sounds like it had to for this meeting. However, Jeremy got up to tell them that he didn't feel like that was okay, that nothing should be added to the special election ballot, and that the only thing that should be focused on is the zoning. He also said that the initial petition was found insufficient, which is actually not true. The first one was a matter of language around whether it was administrative or legislative, and if he meant the first round of signatures on the second petition, that was then far exceeded, but there's also some weird stuff around signatures and being removed. But anyways, those are the 3 that spoke. The reports from Mayor and Council members of Mayor Pro Tem McDonald and Mayor Hall both talked about doing the Wreaths Across America, and then also announced that the community members that will be on the city manager hiring board will be Diedre Pilch, our District 6 superintendent, and I believe it was Jimmy Henning. I'm not sure who he is necessarily, but that was announced. Consent agenda, no one pulled any items, so that went through as approved. The public hearing for the non-owner nomination of City Hall ended up being way more involved than I had expected. There was a presentation by the Historic Preservation Commission that put forward the nomination, and then a very detailed presentation from the City of Greeley, who is the owner and was contesting that nomination. And then I think there was at least an hour of public input on that on both sides. There were concerns raised around the fact that it would cost less to renovate City Hall than it would to build a brand new City Hall. Councilmember Deboutez brought up that they had done a survey previously in which there were 1,300 responses, and it was around things they wanted to see, residents wanted to see in the city. And she said the top 2 were to repurpose parking lots, that we want fewer of those, and to maintain the character. And so she had kind of used that as an argument and a concern around tearing down City Hall. There were people that spoke on both sides. There were 2 members of Weld County commissioners. The first one was Jason Maxey, who basically said that if the city did decide to accept this nomination, that Weld County would likely pull out of Civic Center. And then there was another council member, I did not catch his name, he didn't state it, that was a bit more aggressive in there, of saying that there's so much work that's been put into it and that nothing has been brought up to this point. There's a lot of anger and this would kill the project. There was also someone from operations at District 6 who had similar sentiment of what this would do to Civic Center Campus if it was kept. Many community members who wanted to maintain it, one person bringing up that if you Google Greeley, 10 of the first 15 images are of City Hall, and so they feel like it is a part of our history, a part of what makes Greeley Greeley. The DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, and another downtown business owner spoke to the need for Civic Center Campus. So a lot of the decision, it seems, around whether or not this nomination should go through. Some of it was around the building and the cost to renovate it, and that many people saying that they didn't feel like it really mattered all that much to Greeley, but it seemed that the bigger driver was really Civic Center Campus and what this would do if it got nominated, if that nomination went through and they had to maintain the building. And ultimately, they voted 2 council members, Butler and Deboutez, to accept the nomination, 5 members, the remaining city council, to not accept the nomination, to deny it. One thing that I thought was really cool that I have not seen at the vast majority of meetings is that every single council member actually explained their vote, which I really appreciated, and I hope that we see more of, where they actually explain where they're coming from. Mayor Pro Tem McDonald brought up that maybe if people want to maintain the building, we can get like VR of it. That was an interesting idea. Not sure where, haven't heard that before. Olson had spoken to that there are other ways to record it as well. Butler, on the other hand, had said that perhaps we can do both, that we can maintain the historic nature of City Hall while also continuing forward with Civic Center Campus. And Deboutez had mentioned feeling that the ball had been dropped on communication, which has been an ongoing struggle between the city residents and City of Greeley and City Council. Rudy stated that he didn't believe that any of the criteria had been met. I actually missed what Ross was. I had to step out for a phone call. And then Hall had stated that he believes that the architecture was just a trend at the time and it's not a welcomed sight. So that did get shot down, so it will not be a historically preserved building and will likely be torn down for Civic Center. Steve Teets spoke at all three of the public hearings. In addition, the other ones about the boards, all of that went through, 7-0 vote of the affordable housing change in language. And then they did do the appointments to boards and commissions for citizen budget, Greeley Urban, and human relations. I didn't realize, it was very quickly that all these names were said without upfront explaining that these were actually the people who had gotten the appointments, or at least I missed that. So I didn't realize until they said my name that that's what was happening. I thought they were just listing the applicants for the first one. But I did end up getting the Human Relations Commission, so we'll be on that. But there, you can check the website if you're curious about who got on each board. And then things were adjourned. So hopefully that helps for those of you that weren't able to attend. And the next meeting will be after the first of the year. I hope everyone has a very happy holidays, and talk soon.